Good evening, and welcome to the December 18th, 2019 regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Library Trustees. It's approximately 6:02 p.m., and I'm calling this meeting to order. We will start our roll call of attendance starting on my left.
Melanie Manheim,
Layla Johnston,
Michael Gray,
Diane Tiago.
Kendra Levesque,
David Boucher,
and Cindy McNaught.
This meeting is being audio and video taped for future broadcast on LCAT. And our first order of business is the minutes of the November 20th meeting. And did everybody have an opportunity to read the minutes? Great. Did anybody have any, see anything that needs to be edited or? Hearing nothing, then I'm going to ask for a motion to accept the minutes of that meeting.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes
Okay.
of the meeting.
Do I hear a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome.
All right. Okay, the next item on our agenda is if we had any guests in this room, which we don't. So we'll just keep moving along to the director's report. Layla?
Okay, finalists were selected for interview for the town manager search. The interviews are being held right now at the Council on Aging. And will go until probably around 8:30 or so, and then there is a deliberation on the agenda. And then town council will adjourn until their next meeting in January. So I'm not sure if deliberation means that they'll be making an offer tonight, but I guess we'll find out in the future.
Are the four including the acting one?
Yes. All town of East Long Meadow boards and commissions are being given a friendly reminder from Don Mackey that boards and commissions should not rely solely on the LCAT recordings to prepare their minutes. An equipment failure did occur at a subcommittee meeting a few weeks ago, and luckily the secretary was taking notes during that time, so they did have minutes, but just a friendly reminder that equipment can fail and other unforeseen things can take place, and just a reminder for everybody. The biggest project right on the horizon, aside from budget preparations, the town is converting to software that's going to be used to process payroll and all employee benefits. The payroll and accounting department selected ADP as the vendor, and they've been working with them over the past several months. All town departments will be using this new software for payroll and benefits processing beginning in January. It's a major change for all of the town departments at this time. Building maintenance, 11 fluorescent bulbs were replaced in the light fixtures on the second floor. And we have some updates for public services. The first will be if anybody here uses Overdrive. Cindy, I know you use it. I use it. Starting on January 21st, which is the weekend of the Martin Luther King holiday season, you'll need to know your PIN.
I don't know my PIN.
That's okay. I have instructions on what to do.
Okay. I didn't even know I had a PIN.
So if you've ever logged into Evergreen at home, if you've ever logged into the catalog from home, you'll have a PIN to use when you do that. That will be the same as Overdrive. If you do not know your PIN, you can call us and we can reset it. Okay. There are also ways to reset it online directly through the Overdrive site. So that is a change. It is to help protect patron privacy. As of right now, you only need your card number to log in, and there have been a couple of incidents of people accidentally, if you type a few of those digits wrong, you may accidentally get access to someone else's account, or you can imagine that, it just needs a little bit extra protection there.
For myself.
You never know. You never know these days. On Saturday, December 21st, from 10 to noon, the library will host a session of an adult writers workshop. This workshop uses the MFAW model, which is a roundtable format used by graduate writing programs. It highlights the role of constructive criticism, and it encourages writers to participate in the discussion about the work that they share. This workshop is facilitated by Elizabeth Boss and Jennifer Gaburi. We just wrapped up our annual collection of donations for the Giving Tree, and we had such a generous outpouring of support from the community. The unwrapped toys and gifts and toiletries for the first time this year were collected to be distributed to children in need. It almost was like moss. Every time you entered the children's room, the pile had grown bigger and bigger. And so New Beginnings,
People are so generous.
yes, very, very generous, and we're very appreciative of that. And New Beginnings will be distributing those on Monday, and they've invited children's librarian Michelle Lemire to come and kind of watch the distribution. And so we're also working with a new mentoring program for youth in the children's department. Homeschooler Miles Santinello, he's grade 5. He assists with Discover Time Thursdays at 10 a.m. And Luca Ikabuchi, I hope I'm saying that correctly, assists with Discover Time Mondays at 1. They both take turns participating and helping with the younger children. It's a fantastic mentoring opportunity.
Nice.
And those Discover Time programs are for preschoolers aged 3 to 3.5.
Nice.
These students that are mentoring, seeing as it's 10 o'clock on a Thursday morning, they leave school.
They're homeschooled.
Oh, okay,
It's in
I'm
the
sorry.
it's in the report. They're homeschoolers.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
That's okay.
I didn't pick up on
Can I
that.
just ask you one question?
Sure.
About the new payroll and
Yes.
benefits process?
Yes.
So does that mean you won't be doing timesheets? You just log
Yes.
into the computer?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's kind of good.
Yeah. So I'm very excited because it really increases efficiency and accuracy
Yeah.
for the management end. Some people may or may not be so excited from the employee end.
Yeah, it's a change. It's different.
It's a change, but it will be a huge increase in efficiency for all town departments. So pretty excited.
And so
for it.
every department's doing away with timesheets.
Yes. Well, it'll be your electronic timesheet,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I meant paper.
I know. But yeah, we'll still be keeping track of time and all of that. It's just all going to be done online. Be able to produce reports, see benefits accruals in real time. It's a huge benefit to the
Oh,
employees.
good. So you can see automatically how much vacation time you have, how much sick time you've taken.
Yes.
Gotcha.
We have that in Springfield, and
Oh, did you?
it's very convenient, yes. I was using it today.
Yeah.
So you don't say,
I was
how much
here.
more time do I have? You don't-
No, it says it right there. Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions for Layla? All right.
Can I make a motion to accept the director's report?
Do I hear a second?
I'd love to second.
Okay, Michael. All right. Everybody, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, unanimous. All right, moving on to the new business. And if you'll recall, I had asked Layla if she could go over what they refer to as the list of grants with us, because this is a new item for us, because it's based on our strategic plan. So she probably can, I know she can explain it a lot better than what I can. So that's why I wanted to, for those, we can say who are new, as well as those of us who,
Been around the block.
it's, you know, it was like, what was it, about 3 years ago, that we created this strategic plan. So it really is new to all of us. So I just thought that it would be a great time to have her explain about it.
Okay.
Layla, do you mind?
So the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners administers what Diane referred to as LISTA grants, and that stands for Library Services and Technology Act, LISTA. The funds come from the federal government. They come from the Institute of Museum and Library Services. And so what the Massachusetts Board of Commissioners does is every year they put together a list of topics that they will consider for funding, and that's the third page in here includes the list of all of these grant ideas that they will consider. Grants can range anywhere from $6,000 up to $20,000, last over 1 to 2 years. It's very important to highlight these are for new programs and services. These grants cannot substitute for our municipal appropriation requirement or for our materials expenditure requirement. These grants are not meant to substitute for town funding. They're meant to encourage new ideas and services from library staff, from librarians working throughout the Commonwealth. And so the overview here on the first page just kind of discusses which grants they have. And so you can see they have a preservation assessment grant, the social infrastructure grant. Those are specific grants that are brand new, created specifically to help libraries dealing with the opiates crisis that's going on right now all over the country. You may have seen news coverage of some libraries are experiencing an uptick in, for example, overdoses on site and things of that very serious nature. That's what these social infrastructure grants refers to. The summer learning grants and the summer software grants were both smaller grants meant for smaller libraries that need supplemental funding for their summer reading programs. And then on the next page, it includes, I have the requirements listed for you. You need to have a current strategic plan, which we do have. Our strategic plan covers the years fiscal 19 through fiscal 24. You need to have an action plan. We have an action plan on file. Action plan is basically just small goals that you achieve throughout the year that are based on the larger goals in your strategic plan. The library needs to be a member of Massachusetts Library System. The library needs to be certified for state aid. I know everybody here is very familiar with all the certification requirements. And then preservation grants are a little bit different, and they're very specialized, and they have a specific consultant that works on those. And these grant topics all fit with MBLC's list a long-range plan and build on that. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
I have a question.
Sure.
So like, one of these just says, at the table. How do you know what that means?
So these are printed directly from the MBLC website, and when you are in an interactive environment, when you're online, you select on the drop-down where it says more, and all of the requirements for the grant will come up, and it's all explained right there. At the table is specifically using food and cooking to teach literacy.
Okay.
Have we applied for any of these grants?
Well, you never had a strategic plan before.
No, I know, but
No.
are we planning to?
No, I do discuss these grants every year with my staff, because you really want the ideas to
Right,
come from the
right,
staff.
Right.
But so far, they're really, we've had a new children's librarian, we've had a new adult services librarian, so it's been a lot of topic of conversation, but not at this time.
Yeah, okay.
Can ideas come from the town or from the trustees?
Generally, it's not advisable. Generally, the ideas really need to come from the people on the front lines, and that would be the staff who are working with the public every single day.
And they may identify a need that
Yes.
might be addressed through one of these grants.
Correct.
So does the staff sit and read each one of these to see if they're
Yes,
interested in any
we
of
go
them?
over them at our supervisor meetings.
Okay. Good.
Great. Thank you. Shelley Kazana is still doing it?
She's still there.
I thought she had retired at one point.
Yep, she's still there.
So thanks for going over that
You're
for
welcome.
everybody. I appreciate it. And I just want to remind everybody too, the strategic plan is also on our website, and it's under the policies page, and you want to see what the goals and objectives are. You can see it right there. It's a big report. Lila did a fantastic job on putting it together to submit it to the MBLC, and you can see what the public their responses were, the age groups who responded, or also the age groups of who's in a household.
How often does that change, or is it updated?
Best practices in libraries are that you want to update and review your plan every 5 years.
So once it's done, it just exists for 5 years, and then we pick
Well,
it
it's a
up?
living document. That's why my staff and I work on the action plan every year, and we send it in, and it's used as a guideline for everything that we're doing. That's why 5 years is generally considered the maximum lifespan.
And when that's up, do you start and have a whole new 5-year plan?
Yes.
I see. Are we involved with that?
Trustees? A trustee representative will be on the committee generally, yeah.
Okay.
There was a whole different group, a variety of people from the community that took during this particular program. And on the first a couple of pages, and I believe there's like acknowledgement of who participated in that particular.
And methodologies that I used and
Yep.
everything it's all laid out for everybody.
It really is. It's
And
quite
how many years into it are we?
Well, we're on fiscal 20,
And it goes
so
to
we're,
24.
yeah.
2024? Okay.
when you like one of the items that was suggestion objective, I'm not quite sure. It was that because of the open space concept, some people would like the noise reduction, to be reduced a bit because of the high ceilings too, and so
The general
forth. So,
acoustics of the building.
yeah,
are-
so it's a goal. I don't know what the answer is, and I don't know if acoustic screens and so forth would be something that would be even
Duct tape.
feasible. I'm just tossing this out. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen,
Right.
but I'm just saying,
That was one of
so
the
They have
things.
panels that they hang from the ceiling.
right.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
I've seen that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I would assume, and I'm assuming here, that would be something that would have to be presented to the town.
Right.
Yes, and then the town would have to
Right.
really investigate and see whether or not
It's worth the investment.
it would, yes.
There are
You know,
acoustic
and the research.
engineers that design them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't they usually, they come in and they have some kind of way they can tell where the
Oh, yeah.
sound and
Yeah.
so forth. So, but, it's just like one of those items that's on the goals and objectives. So you'll see.
Who is the most recent trustee on that committee?
Diane?
I was on it.
I see, okay, cool.
It was a new adventure.
And it was last year?
Year before, I believe.
We put it together in 2017. It was a very long,
Process.
intense process.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't just happen.
And it
Yeah.
starts in 19 and goes to 24?
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
It's just the world changes pretty fast, so
Yeah.
you can make running changes to it if something comes up.
Yep.
Good,
Because it's living,
it's,
right,
Yep.
good.
a working
right.
document.
so does anybody have any other questions or thoughts to add? No? All right, thank you. Let's go on to our next order of business, which is old business, which is the behavior policy. And we're going to focus on our old policy, and we were all given several policies to take a look at and to see what you think you might like to add to what we have. So I'm interested if anybody saw anything in the in the policies that were given to us?
I pulled out a couple different things.
Okay,
I don't know which policies I pulled them from, I just copied
Yep,
and pasted.
that's fine.
So threatening behavior, so violence, threats of violence and possession of weapons.
Yep.
I think there was something similar, maybe?
I have threatening behavior including
Maybe
but
not.
not limited to violence, threats of violence, and possessions of weapons.
Yeah, it's not on the East Long Meadow one right now.
Yes.
Damaging or defacing library materials.
Yeah,
Interfering with another person's right to use the library.
mhm,
Including on the smoking policy to include vaping and e-cigarettes.
yeah. Mm-hmm,
I also put, this is because it bothers me, playing audio equipment so that others can hear it. I know with the cell phones now and YouTube is much more popular, I know that that can be a distraction. I also had parents being responsible for the behavior and supervision of their children.
yeah.
And misusing the restrooms. I thought that one was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the ones that I pulled out.
Anybody else?
Use of alcohol, cigarettes, or illegal substances in the library.
Yep.
And there was one here that I saw, use of skateboards, rollerblades, skate shoes, or scooters inside the library or on library property. And I think here, part of our problem is defining library property. So they're out in that parking lot, which is not really library property, it's
Yeah.
town property.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know where the library, if the Brownstone Walk is
Right.
library property or town property. I'm not sure from the outside how far the library extends. And I don't think it's too far. It might be at the door, I'm not sure. Did you know that?
I don't, and it might be different now.
Yeah, exactly.
So, the parking lot, we have we have, I think, 60-some spaces.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to look back at the building permit and all of that. But we were assigned a certain amount of parking spaces in the lot, so it would depend on that. But I'd have to enlist the help of Connie Broaders in the planning department and have her take a look at and let us know.
Because I don't know if you're still having that problem, but they would skateboard down that, the Brownstone Walkway.
No, we don't see too many problems with skateboards.
Oh,
No,
it's cyclical.
not so much. You gotta wait for them to trend back around as popular.
That's what
and
happens,
then-
it goes out
yeah,
and comes back.
Yeah.
But the yo-yos are a big problem.
The yo-yos. Hashtag yo-yos. I was looking at the Denver behavior policy, and I thought they had done a good job with a lot of up-to-date behaviors and things that might be addressed that come down that we're not so aware of now.
Right.
So what might be a problem today as skateboards, or like skateboards may
Yeah.
not be a problem now. So you want some language in there that would include general disruptive behavior.
Jetpacks. No
Jetpacks might not work so well. And soliciting of any kind too, I thought.
Right.
Gee, that's pretty annoying.
Anyone else have some?
I liked how, we did list on ours about the, calling the police, that you report activities to the police. I think that's important for the East Long Meadow Police Department to be notified. I also liked, the gum chewing, tobacco, e-cigs and vape. I think last time we met, we spoke about the door security, that we would add that to the policy as well. I think we spoke
Door
about that very briefly. That's all I had, add door security. I think we talked about that very briefly at our last meeting.
So you mean
About adding,
if the
like if they were to
alarm
use the
goes
door
off?
or, I don't know, I'd have to refer, let me look back in my notes
Okay.
and look at last meeting. But I had that on my list. And also I thought it was important, the way Forbes listed it, it reads, "The library maintains a safe and healthy atmosphere in which
Yeah, I
patrons
like that
and
too.
staff can be free from harassment, intimidation, and threats to their safety and well-being." But I like how they added the not only the patrons but also the library staff.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
like that
I
too.
think that's very important. That way everybody's covered in that.
And I like that,
Statement.
this policy had guidelines for dealing with difficult patrons and the different, like it says, remain friendly and calm in addressing the patron situation. Identify yourself as a library employee. Do not touch the patron. I mean, probably not a good idea to
No.
shovel. Discuss the issue with the patron away from other patrons in the library if possible. And the staff member can give a copy of the library's written policy to the patron if needed. I think that's what you might have been referring to a little bit, Michael, about having something to show.
Ah.
And then it has procedures of what to do, you know. In a case of a minor disruption, the library patron will receive 2 warnings. And if the patron behavior continues, the patron may be asked to leave the library for a stated period of suspension. I found that most times when it was a problem, if you asked somebody that you might have given a few warnings to and asked them to leave, and they didn't leave. The big problem was when they don't leave.
Yeah.
And then I know that when I was in Springfield especially, there were some kind of almost gang problems. And so we would have a signal, and if they wouldn't leave, the signal was call 911 right away. You know, and you never know what kind of situation may erupt that you can't safely handle. So if you said, "I'm going to call the police," they would sort of laugh.
Sure.
You know, and it wasn't a good thing to do. So we would say, I very nicely asked you to leave. Would you please leave? And then when you know they're not, you give a thumbs up or whatever, and someone would call. And then they would either come or not.
Yeah.
If they had a
Although East Long
bigger
Meadow Police
crisis.
are pretty responsive,
Yes.
I will
Yeah.
say.
So there's photography stuff. Is that on the agenda somewhere?
Not right now. I think what we need to do is we need to just focus on this library behavior policy, and we can talk about the photography, and after we kind of focus on this. I think this is the priority. I think the photography and the video taping is something else that was brought to our attention. But that, I think, is a subject upon itself. So I'd like to just stay focused on this. I think it would be best to at least have something in writing so that the staff has a library policy, behavior policy at their fingertips as soon as possible.
So we need to update the behavior policy.
Yep,
We have a lot of good input from
Yeah.
these other things.
yep.
One thing Melanie and I talked about a little bit before the meeting was it could be really wise to put a reference in some of these policies to other policies. So, for example, and this is Melanie's idea, not mine, that in the behavior policy, you know, photographing people, you know, now that people have phones, everybody's a photographer. So in a way, I mean, this more
I got
deals
the
with
heads up.
events and things, but I just want to say that you might want to put a reference to a photography and video policy in the behavior policy and just say, see the behavior policy.
Yeah,
Or the,
so once we get to something like that, we will, but
Okay.
let me, if I think I understand what you're referring to, and what, this is my thoughts. I got this from the Westfield one, Westfield behavior one, and it says, you know, parents, legal guardians, and other caregivers are responsible for the behavior and supervision of their children and may be liable for any damage caused by a child under the age of 18. And then, in parentheses, see Safe Child Policy, and then there's the MGL Chapter 231, Section
that's good.
85G. So that's something that we certainly can put in the policy, because you're not going to be writing all these behaviors all under one umbrella.
Absolutely, like there's a cell phone policy.
Yeah,
and, you know,
yeah.
whatever.
So I think that,
It's all comes sort of under behavior, and
Yeah.
some of them overlap.
If something is really important and it's not in your policy, but it's covered under CMGL policy or
yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
it seems to me that it'd be efficient to attach it at the back of the policy. You know what I mean? Because otherwise, somebody reads that and goes, "Well, I'll just ignore that." But they're not going to go to a computer and look it up. You know, you might just want to have the policy and say, "See this," and then it says, you know, attached or something like that. No?
I don't think we could do that, only because you could have more than just one policy you might want to refer to. So, in other words,
All I'm saying is, it's a book full of paper,
yeah,
and some of it is this stuff.
yeah,
But then, if there's anything
Yeah.
that's significant
yeah.
that we're just covering by saying it's covered in some file on some computer somewhere, that's not helpful.
Well,
Because nobody's
all
gonna
that
look it
these
up.
are doing, may I interrupt here?
Sure.
All that these are doing, so for example, the Mass General Law, Chapter 272, creating a disturbance, this is just a shortened, condensed version of that.
Right.
So what this behavior policy is doing, it is giving you the reference to the law right here. And so I think attaching every single law, which is all very lengthy and wordy and so forth, would be very overwhelming for a lot of patrons.
Right.
And so that's what the policy is, very concise,
Yeah.
and that's important too, for people to be able to actually process what you're telling them and say, look, you cannot, please don't come in here and smoke, and that is expressly against the law, and here is, you know, no smoking. So, and here's the law,
Yeah.
right here.
Yeah.
I would be concerned with, you can also err on the side of providing people way too much
Yeah.
information, and then it
Okay.
gets lost in the weeds,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah.
Right.
And the general thing with a behavior policy that you want to concentrate on is that the library is trying to provide a safe
Yeah.
and
Right.
equitable environment for everyone.
Yeah.
And if someone infringes upon that and it disrupts other people, well, then that's the time the behavior needs to be addressed.
Mm-hmm.
And that can generally be stated in a lot of this without going into a lot of verbiage. When you say illegal activities or behaviors, I mean, that would include, don't bring a gun in here,
Yeah.
you know. So it can be determined more broadly, and then more specific things would be under that broad statement. And in the end, it's up to the library staff to provide that kind of an environment.
Because it's always about enforcement too. You have to consider, the person enforcing.
Absolutely, and that's, it's easy to have somebody who's out of control, and you're really not going to get too far by saying, "Hey, look it, this is the policy."
Yeah.
Yes.
What you need is
Yep.
you can't stay.
Yeah.
If this behavior continues, and then you have the behavior too of children's behavior, and what age are they allowed in without a parent?
Yeah.
And so I think there's a couple of different levels that need to be addressed within the behavior policy.
Mm-hmm.
Do we escort kids less than age 10?
We do have a separate safe child policy.
And there again, Michael, that is part of a behavior policy.
So the
as well.
staff looks for like kids who seem to be just dropped off at the library who are under
Now,
age 10?
if they're
Or they wander
here,
in?
there's been problems where and it's not always a problem, but there's times the parents will say, go to the library after school, all right? And it's because they're working. So they drop them off here because they figure this is a safe environment. But they need to know the staff isn't here to babysit their kids. If the child is causing a problem or is disruptive, which happens if a child who is maybe 8 years old is here for 3 hours.
Yeah.
3 hours is a long time for a child to remain in a kind of quiet, controlled environment without running around and acting up. So, and some kids can do that and some kids can't, but if they can't, the parent needs to know, look, this is becoming a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And this is our policy about using the library as a babysitter.
So what do you do with a 7-year-old kid whose parents aren't there, and you find him and he's misbehaving? What can you do with him?
And he's misbehaving, well then, that's why you have the policy. Then you have to talk to the parent and say, or
But
you
at
say,
the time, if the staff encounters someone,
at the time,
you pull the kid aside and put him in a back
it's
room, what do
tricky
you
because
do?
if you tell them to leave the library and they're only 7,
I know.
it's,
But Leila, would you answer how possibly how does this staff, like, I wouldn't think there'd be too many 7-year-olds coming into
look,
the
I had
library
7-year-olds
without a
watching
parent.
4-year-olds
Yeah,
for the whole afternoon.
yeah.
So we don't see that as often here.
Oh,
It definitely happens in a lot of libraries.
oh.
And we have seen it here as well.
So what's
and-
your advice to the staff if they?
Well, we would have a procedure. It wouldn't be advice. We have a procedure.
You do.
And
What
if
is
there
it?
is, if the unattended child, if we cannot determine the parental or caregiver contact, we contact the police department because it is
exactly.
a safety risk of great.
Both the
Magnitude.
child and the community.
Yes, but generally we can determine who the child is, who the contact is that needs to be reached out to, and that would be our procedure. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. It can be very sticky, Michael, whether you have a policy or not. The policy backs you up.
Yeah, see,
Yeah.
I agree with you that if someone, even an adult, is misbehaving somehow, or maybe somebody just has some,
Anger issues.
yeah, that just waving a piece of paper and saying, you can't do that, see, it's on this paper, that's not going to pay off. So really, am I wrong in assuming that these policies on behavior are things that the staff needs to be, really thoroughly aware of, and then it's only going to be really looked at by someone who's been sort of the subject of a policy situation,
Or you have,
and their parents or guardians are objecting to it, so then they get on the computer and they dig out the behavior policy and they read it all, and right?
or if you have like you said, a child who's kind of out of control,
Yeah.
and there's no parent there, then when you contact the parent, you could say, look, this is our policy. I understand that you work and you want your child to be in a safe environment, and we just want you to know that they can stay here as long as they behave, but we're not here to watch them or babysit them. And if their behavior becomes such that they can't stay in the library, then the police will have to be called, or you will be called to come and get them. So you have to make sure that the parent understand what the role of the library is in regard to safe care of their child. It isn't.
Yeah, we do not act in place of the parent as the public library. And so that is different from the schools, and sometimes people don't understand that and, just need a friendly reminder, and it's okay. It's just that, we do not provide that type of supervision that a school, for example, does regarding, it is up to the parent or caregiver.
In the second paragraph of our library behavior policy, it says the library reserves the right to require anyone who violates these rules of conduct to leave the premises. The library, and I inserted, director may deny permission for a person to enter its facilities for a specified time if that person continues to violate these rules, or if that person has engaged in criminal behavior on library premises. So, I think that covers what this discussion is all about,
Okay, good.
you know?
And the first paragraph too describes what the purpose of the library is.
Yeah.
So-
The one thing that I picked out of Forbes policy that I kind of liked too was, and I just thought, in the last sentence of our policy, what it says is, it is expected that persons using the library will conduct themselves in an orderly and respectable manner. And I thought, not everybody thinks, we don't think alike. So I thought, using Forbes' example, putting down specifically, patrons and staff will be free from harassment, intimidation, retaliation, and threats to their well-being. I liked that there was some kind of specifics as to what type of behavior, specifically stating what it is that we consider unacceptable behavior. And I just thought that,
Like you mean you could say some examples that unacceptable behavior would be,
yeah,
something like that.
like harassment, intimidation, something like that. Just,
And I think it's very important, that last statement, refusing to comply with the reasonable requests of any member of the library staff. So if a member of the library staff said, you're disrupting these people, can you keep it down? And they laugh and swear at you. And then you ask them, look, if you continue this behavior, you're going to be asked to leave. And they laugh and swear at you. And so then you have, then that's not complying with the reasonable request of a staff person. The tricky part comes if it's somebody underage and you ask them to leave the library, and that puts them also in an unsafe situation. You have to be very careful of that as well. So, and then we would run into a problem too if the library, let's say, closed at 5 o'clock and no parent is here to pick the child up, and you can't get a hold of the parent, then you say, well, we're closed, and you leave this 6-year-old or 7-year-old standing out by the curb. That, to me, is something that you can't really do. So you'd either have to call the police to take the child and wait with them. And one thing you cannot do is take them home in your car.
No, you can't.
But that's what people used to do sometimes, and you can't do that because
different times.
Different times, exactly.
Yeah.
So there's all these kinds of different situations that arise. So you can say our policy is, well, you have to leave the library.
Yeah.
Sometimes yes, sometimes that's a dangerous situation.
So it's careful. You have to be careful how you make that
Absolutely.
decision, depending on the situation.
The situation.
Each situation's different.
And that's why one policy can't contain
everything.
It has to be broad enough so steps are taken that the library staff deems appropriate.
Yeah.
Layla, do you encounter this every year? I mean, are there a few situations every year where you have to throw somebody out of the library?
Of course, people are asked to leave when usually it's loud talking, and they don't want to keep it down.
And they're after school, they're laughing, there's 15 of them, and they're just
congregating in the parking lot and so forth.
It intimidates people trying to get in. I mean, even Walgreens next door only allows 2 at a time.
Yeah, the middle schoolers is specifically what Cindy is referring to.
They're walking down this way, and it's not like they're evil. they
We're
just-
happy to have them here.
And we are,
Mhm.
you know, but they have to have some kind of decorum.
The most
So-
of what the staff have to do here is behavior management.
That's
It
pretty
really is.
much,
So,
So if I may interrupt for
Yeah.
a second, one thing that I didn't see in our policy that I did see in stores, library, and it's just exactly what you were mentioning. It was loud or abusive talking, particularly profanity,
Yeah.
will not be, you know,
Tolerated.
tolerated. So I thought that might be worth.
And the
adding.
next line also, excessive or loud socializing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which almost could be combined into
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And activities that disturb others.
those headphones, right? Headphones.
Yes. Yeah.
And then, let's see. And I wanted to ask Layla, again, I noticed, I think it was in Wilbraham Library. Is it even necessary to be so specific as to, you know, we're not gonna allow running, sleeping, patrons without shoes or shirts will not be allowed in the library? Or do you think that's kind of like a given type of thing? I mean, you know.
Nothing's given, I don't think.
No, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I guess,
Dude, I'm just saying, it was in there, so I just kind of picked up on it,
Yeah.
and I just said,
Yeah, see,
Yeah, we're not
that's
gonna-
what I found. Some of these actually listed a lot of behaviors,
Yep.
specific behaviors. And did we want to do that? You know, do we
Yeah.
want to go that route, or do we want it to be a little more general?
yeah, yeah.
because you could say that just the general disruptive behavior statement that was in there would
Yeah.
cover running and
Yeah,
so
Yeah.
and that's how I looked at it.
And it should be noted that if it's disruptive behavior that the staff notices or they've gotten complaints about,
Yeah,
then it's not open for discussion.
yeah.
Right.
You know, well, you were running, you know, and you knocked 3 people over.
It's a difficult balance.
It's
You
a
know,
balance.
everybody does have the right to use the facility, and everyone has the right to be here. And then you have to balance that with, yes, you have the right to do that, but could you please keep it down?
I mean, when I was in Springfield, and maybe you noticed this too when you were, Layla, but there were several people who would be in that just had so much odor about them. It was like a killer, you know, and yet they even had a workshop about it, because what do you do? 'Cause
That's
it's-
difficult because that
it's-
person is probably going through a very hard
it's
time
homeless
with whatever
usually.
is
They would
going
wash
on.
up in the washroom.
Contrasted with someone else does have the right to not be disturbed.
Exactly.
And it's that again. That's why
Exactly.
you know, keeping in mind it's the staff that have to enforce the behavior issues all the time. You know, it is behavior management all day long. So
Or
That's
there was
tough.
a gentleman that would come in who was mentally disturbed
Yes.
and would sometimes talk to kids and touch them inappropriately. And you know, how do you deal with that? Because he didn't have a guardian with him.
right.
Yeah, and he was a big guy, fairly big guy, and but he was more like a child, so it wasn't inappropriate to him, you know, or really for his mental age.
Although I could see that escalating quickly.
Of
and that's-
course.
Yeah.
And it was a very difficult thing.
Yes.
You know?
Absolutely.
And I went through steps to minimize his presence in the children's department because he was over 18. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a young man, like in his 20s, and yet he has a right to be in
Yeah.
the library, and so I think what finally happened was that anytime he was in the children's department, a security guard had to be there. Well, we have no security guards here,
Right.
Yeah.
you know. So, but they would not let him be in the children's department, which I thought was a little dangerous. But you know, that's the way it was. So.
Yeah.
And the funny part is, he used to be in there all the time, and I don't think I was here more than 3 or 4 years. And doesn't he come in?
Oh.
Oh my gosh.
Deja vu?
I said, deja vu, what do I do? Yeah, I wasn't gonna let that happen. So we made a rule that
Small world.
he had to be, couldn't be in the children's department
Yeah.
without a child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just a good rule to have in general anyway. You don't
Truly.
want adults hanging out in the children's
Exactly.
department unless they're actually with someone or
Or have a purpose they're
teacher
working
looking
on.
for materials or something
Right.
like that. That's a
They're
good
working,
example.
yeah.
Mhm.
But the staff kind of knows when it's either a dangerous situation or a less
Yes.
than ideal situation that needs to be addressed. And they
Right.
know
Mhm.
because they don't really want to have to do that. That's not
Yeah.
what you signed up for, really.
Right,
right.
To be the library police, but
Yeah.
it's part of the deal. So it helps to have
Mhm.
backup.
Right. Definitely.
Well, I think that I appreciate everybody taking the time to go through all these, the other policies from other
there's some good
libraries.
things
And
that-
I think that we pulled out quite a few that we were, had omitted along the lines. And Layla, do you have something that you think we missed or
I just think the
skipped?
most important element of all of this discussion is the weapons component, that we really need an actual express stated. In fact, just last week, another person was stabbed at a California public library. So we just really need something addressing weapons.
Okay.
At one time, in past historical versions of this policy, there was a prohibition against weapons in there, and then for whatever reason, the trustees at the time decided to remove that. So that's my most important highlight
Yeah.
there.
What about a
So-
baseball bat or a hockey stick that a kid brings in?
Well,
Well,
anything
we-
could be a weapon. I
Yeah,
mean, a
so
pencil could
that's
be a
what I was
weapon.
gonna say.
But-
Wilbraham had a sentence, and will this suffice, is what my question would be. It says threatening behavior, including but not limited to violence, threats of violence, and possession of weapons. Would that suffice and cover like all the different
Or do you want it to
possibilities?
I would need to read it.
Would you want it to specifically say guns or
Yeah,
or
You mean a
knives?
list?
Yeah,
To list them?
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that we would need an itemized
Yeah.
list per
Right,
se,
because like you
because
said, a baseball bat.
yeah, but at least just the phrase,
A machete.
Weapons.
yeah.
Because anything
This
can
is-
become a
Hedge
weapon.
clippers.
Yeah.
Pen can become a
Yeah,
weapon.
I have it highlighted down there, Layla.
Chainsaw.
That's right. They made a few movies of that one.
I know.
But I think that statement pretty much encompasses
Like
it.
covers it, yeah.
Then that's.
Hmm?
But
I think if you just say weapons,
Yeah.
I don't think it's good enough.
I think that covers the behavior if you're wanting to copy their phrasing there, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the language is such that it covers what we want here, what the director would like here, and to help the staff is
Right.
my thinking,
Right.
you know.
But I mean, somebody has a weapon, you're not gonna go up to them with a behavior policy.
No.
You know, you're not supposed to point that at me.
Yeah. No, but I just,
Yeah,
I want to make sure
it should be in
that,
there, for sure.
Because I'm glad that it was brought to our attention that we needed to
Can
do
I
this.
ask you something about the overdose thing?
Sure.
Does the library have Narcan?
We do not, no, our staff are not trained as first responders, and the instructions I have given my staff are to call 911. We are
Okay.
not medical professionals.
I ran into
Other
that.
libraries have different experience right now. and are including Narcan training and things like that for their frontline staff. I'm sure that has been negotiated with those staff's unions.
Yeah, probably.
And so in our particular institution, we do not have Narcan on site. We would
or
contact
or
emergency
CPR,
providers as soon as possible. We do. We have been trained in CPR.
CPR,
Yes.
okay. Oh,
And we have an defib out by the
I know you had the defib,
Yeah.
but you're trained in using them.
yes. And in fact, the fire chief they're going for trainings.
So-
Some staff, because we have to have people here to keep the building open, but some of them are going for trainings tomorrow and
okay.
Friday. The fire chief will arrange them periodically, probably every 2 years, something like that. But yes, people are trained in CPR, but we're not administering any Narcan
Okay.
at this time.
You know, I mean, it's terrible that you have to think that way.
Yeah.
Steve and I were at the Lowe's parking lot taking a right, and this car stopped in front of us. And this lady is pounding on this guy, and we
Yeah.
thought, oh, they're in a big fight. And they're not moving. So
Yeah.
a truck stopped, we stopped, and he had slumped over, and Steve and this other guy got him out of the car, and he was blue.
Oh, boy.
And so we thought he had a heart attack. And then somebody said, because the girlfriend didn't say anything, and they said, does anybody call the pharmacy and get Narcan? And so this woman came running over, and she started CPR, I mean hard CPR, and she couldn't get any pulse. And it turns out she had just gotten off duty, and she was a Springfield police officer.
Oh, wow.
And then another cruiser came that had the Narcan, and they had to give him 2 doses, and they finally got a little breath, and then they took him, and I don't know if it was like 27 years old,
Yeah.
Wow.
you know, and he was driving,
Yeah.
and so you just don't know. They just don't know what they may be taking.
Right. And it's all over. It's, you know,
It's everywhere.
every demographic is touched
It's
by this.
it's
and-
everywhere.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
everywhere. So it's going to be, it is a problem now, but it can be even a bigger problem later down the road.
Right.
So that's something we need to keep in mind.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah.
If that off-duty police officer hadn't been there, he wouldn't have made it. Because we didn't know what to do. I mean,
Right.
we didn't, you do CPR like, that's not gonna do it.
Right, right.
And she was like, whoa. and she did it like 20 times, and then she had the girlfriend give him 2 breaths, and then she did another 20 times and another 2 breaths, and then she thought there was a faint breath. And then after the Narcan was administered, it was a little stronger. But,
So getting back to our policy
oh, I
here.
know. But I don't know.
But the LCAP people are gonna have a great time watching this show.
Yeah,
Boy.
getting back to the policy. So what I've picked up on, it's that we want to include the vaping in e-cigarettes.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I got this from Forbes where it said the library building and grounds are tobacco-free and smoke-free. And so that could take into consideration cigars and, you know, and so
E-cigarettes.
yeah, and so forth. But if you want to be more specific, to include, we have smoking down there as an item that is not allowed on the premises. Smoking. And
Maybe you
and
can
it
say
could-
smoking of any kind.
I will say with my generation though, you have to specify
Yeah.
vaping and e-cigarettes, because if you say
don't think it's
smoking,
not
they're
Yeah.
going to say,
Yeah.
I don't smoke.
It's,
Yeah,
it's a
really.
vapor. That's
Yeah.
why it's
Yes,
called
you
that's
vapor.
have
right.
to
It's
So that-
specify
so that-
vaping and
Yeah.
It is not
Yeah.
smoking.
Yeah,
because
Yes.
they,
It needs
they
to
will
be
fight it.
included.
So
Yeah.
And it needs to be
I think
included.
you kind of need, I think you need to say that no tobacco as well as vaping and e-cigarettes, do you know what I'm
Yep.
Yeah,
saying?
they're, on the second floor.
I think
Okay.
you have to do that. So that's what my thoughts are, is to include. We're talking about tobacco-free, smoke-free, vaping, and e-cigarettes. They're prohibited, or however else, you know, how you'd like to word that. But I think it's important to be in there.
And we agree.
And you agree. So the next step is, how do we want to move forward with compiling what we've just discussed to add it in. You want to have the policy written up with the new language, like put in there with different colored ink, and
I think so.
take a look at it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
And then see if we missed any other
Yes.
colors. you know.
Yes, because what I'd like to do, I mean, personally, what I'd like to do is try to get something as soon as possible, done as soon as possible.
Okay.
So I'm certainly willing to take this on as far as bringing it up to what we discussed today. And what happens is if we see that I've omitted anything, I will. What
Or
I'll
we
do,
see something else that we think we have done.
yeah, maybe. What I'll do so that you'll get it before the next meeting. I'll send it to Layla, and then Layla can look it over, and she can kind of scan it, and for us, and then she can let us know at the next meeting if there's something else we omitted.
Is that okay with you, Lynn?
Sure.
Yeah, is that good?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. And that way, we could possibly vote on it come January.
Uh-huh,
And,
okay.
and I would feel comfortable with that.
Okay.
This is mine or yours?
Don't know. All right. This is also behavior, but not for now. But we did receive something from more Dee Dee. At least I did. I don't know. Did the rest of you receive anything from more with regards to the photography and the videography, and how they feel? When I say they, she is the library advisory specialist for the MBLC. So what happens is she would like us, or all boards that don't have anything, to take a look at it. And that's something for down the road. And let me ask Layla. Layla, we don't have that in particular. Do you think it's important for us to abide by the recommendation by Mara to start establishing a video?
So this is being brought on because certain groups are doing what they're calling First Amendment tests, where these groups are spontaneously showing up at public libraries and filming people with or without their consent, because they claim that the public library is accessible in that way. But the public library is known as a limited public forum, which means that individuals that are here do have a minimal expectation of privacy. It does not mean, we have surveillance cameras in here, so nobody is really private when they enter this building. However, does that mean that, Melanie can come in here with her smartphone and just start putting it up to somebody at the computer and just recording them? Some of these groups are really trying to push the boundaries and claim that their First Amendment rights are being violated. We haven't had any spontaneous visits from, freedom fighters of the First Amendment or whatever they're calling themselves.
Okay.
So that's why the MBLC is encouraging libraries to issue a video and filming policy. That's up to you trustees to decide if you think that we need one.
I know when I had a program, a children's program, and there were, pictures being taken, we had to people had to sign a consent if they wanted their.
That would be, so that would be if we, meaning the library,
Yeah.
are, for example, our summer reading program, or have a special program, and
Take
we,
pictures for those.
we have pictures of children on our website, for example.
Right.
Parents or caregivers, the adults at home, all authorized by signing something that they would allow their child's image to be used on our website and in our social
So
media.
this is different
This
from
is
that.
totally different from that. This is, like I said, these are these other kind of pushing the boundaries types groups that do this as a way to take action in the courts,
So
frankly.
if the library had a policy against that, then.
Against the public recording part?
Yes.
Well, I would want to involve Don Mackey, for example, if the trustees
No, I'm
decided
just
that they
saying,
wanted
if
to.
they did, then would that be ammunition in case you had to go to court?
Oh, if we did have one?
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
because
saying.
then they'll find fault with it.
Right.
That's also something else to keep in mind as we're talking about policy and so forth. I believe it was Worcester was the major. You might remember, Cindy. A group of citizens sued Worcester and lost because Worcester was filtering their internet and not allowing certain pornographic
do
images.
remember
You remember
that.
this?
Yes.
This was the big,
Yes.
the big one that happened
The
maybe
filtering,
15
yeah.
years ago or so. Because they had in their policy certain images are prohibited, or I don't remember exactly the wording, so, again, this is just a descriptive story. But Worcester Public Library lost that fight in court because they had a policy that the people could point to and say, here it is in writing.
Yeah.
So that's something else to keep in mind. We could create all kinds of policies for the best of intentions. However, it could also at the same time open us up to further legal action. This happens with meeting room policies all the time too, where let's say a white supremacist group from Oregon goes online and tries to book a room here. And we say, oh, we don't allow political, again, this is purely a descriptive example.
Yeah.
But then that group uses whatever written response and policy the respondent has provided with them to then challenge those measures in court. So that's something else to consider and keep in mind. And that's not to say that we shouldn't do it. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that's something to be aware of and to kind of go in with your eyes wide open, that it's not just, oh, we're going to create this policy and put it out there, that there will be, there is potential.
Could be challenges.
Yeah, there could be
Yeah.
legal challenges and that kind of thing.
Okay. Mike, you have a
I printed these out and read them. So just to give you an idea of the diversity here, I'll read a couple of lines. From Swansea Free Public Library, it says, attendance at Swansea Free Public Library programs and events constitutes consent to be photographed and recorded. Okay? Whereas over here, in this one, I'm not sure where it's from, it says photographing or filming recording of members of the public, members of the library staff on duty, and public programs, unless permission granted in advance by the library, are prohibited. I mean,
yeah.
I'm just letting you know that's A and Z as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
So,
and again, showing the difference with the Swansea, I could see, let's say you're coming to a public program on identity theft, but you're being blanketly told that your picture is going to be posted without consent. Now, maybe that works well for them and for their community and their patrons. I don't know that that would work well for
But that-
our
that
particular
might not have a-
institution, and that's also an internal.
That might not have a legal standing either.
That doesn't have anything to do with the examples that I was talking about with like the First Amendment challenges and so on and so forth.
No, I know.
This is an internal, basically telling patrons, if you come to our programs and we take your picture, here's our disclaimer stating that we're going to use your print and electronic. And frankly, I don't know that that would work well for East Long Meadow.
the
And I'm not
stipulations
sure
in
that
some
that
of
would
these,
have a legal basis.
It would
either.
have a chilling, I think, a chilling effect on our
Absolutely.
program attendance. If people
Absolutely.
know that
Why would I
without
go?
any their own, they can't opt in or opt out. They're just
Right.
being told, guess what, you're going to be on camera. And there's some days that, people aren't going to be real excited about that, just depending on their personal circumstances.
in some cases, they say they can film you, but they can't say who you are or anything about you. Okay? So like the one in Swansea, it says just coming is consent. but then it says photographs and videos will not be identified using full names or personal identifying
because
information
that's-
without written approval from the subject, parent, or legal guardian.
That is best practices. For example, LCAT came for our one of our the Bruins, when the Bruins were here in Red and whatever.
Yep.
If you're taking a photo and it's the backs of the heads of everybody and you can't really identify them, you know, that's what that is referring. That's what this is referring to, the non-identification, because that's best practices when you're dealing with recordings and photos and what, is that right, Kelly? Yeah. But again, this would be an internal thing, not really addressing the First Amendment issues. Dee Dee's information is
But this
probably
is a
about
policy.
Mm-hmm.
And aren't all our policies online?
Yeah, yes, I meant an internal thing for Swansea, not internal to East Long Meadow. I meant this policy is
Right.
referring to in-house programs and recordings, and maybe recordings they're doing by the library. This policy is not addressing the MBLC.
I agree, but that's their policy. So if the issue that I'm just bringing up is we need to decide with your advice and approval, I mean, do you want a photography and recording policy?
I just feel like this is all being kind of sprung on me
Oh,
right
no,
now,
no.
and I would like a moment to just
Sure,
think about it.
Well, that's
absolutely,
fair. You know,
absolutely.
You know,
Well,
and again,
that's a good
to
answer.
discuss with my
Oh,
staff.
yeah.
Yes.
All of these.
Definitely.
Ramifications of it.
Yeah,
Oh,
this is
yeah.
kind of
Because
being
there are a lot of ramifications to it.
spontaneously
Yes.
sprung on me right now.
Yes.
So I would like to talk about it with my staff,
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Shall we
and
bring
we need
it
to
up
work on the
again?
behavior policy
This
first.
is number
Right.
one. The behavior policy is number one.
Yeah, that's good.
We could deal with this down
Because this
down
isn't
the
like going to be
line.
part of the behavior.
No.
Right.
No.
Yeah, we can always do that at a
Yes, yes. It's,
Time.
but it certainly
Yeah,
we got to give the director time to digest
Absolutely,
and
all of
yeah.
us,
So
too.
and
But
get the feedback
sometimes-
from everybody working here.
sure,
Yeah.
it's sometimes too much, too much policies can, like she said, can kind of work against you. With you mean well, but sometimes it comes back to bite you. So that's all as far as that concerned. I just thought we should bring it forward, seeing as it was brought by email, and I did not know that. It did not go to you. I did not know.
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
I'm sorry. The thing from Maura Didi about the challenges about the videos and photography. I did not know whether you had seen that
Yes.
email.
Yeah.
So I did not know whether or not it's something we should look at down the line. So that's all. That's all. And but behavior policy numero uno as far as I'm concerned. So I'd like to move on, okay, to other business. A is the Library Friends News. They did not meet in December because that first Monday was the beginning of that 2-day storm, so they did not meet. Trustees updates. What I did, I just wanted to give you, seeing as we're having a new year in just a couple of weeks, I just thought I would just give you new calendars as far as when our meetings will take place in the first 6 months of next year. Just as a reminder, we meet every third Wednesday, but sometimes it's nice to see it on a calendar. That's all. All right, and I don't mean to be putting the director on the spot here. Did you receive anything from Mary Rose Quinn? Because I got an email from her, it having to do with the state aid, the certification of libraries. I'm sorry, for purposes of state aid.
No.
No. All right.
What
Okay.
did you receive?
Well, it was like more like a heads up. I got it in November, heads up, blah, blah, and so for them to go to a chart. And they said, well, if not, if
Oh,
you
you
don't
mean the
see,
voting?
no, if you don't see your library listed
Yeah.
this time, then just wait till December and so forth.
Yes.
So what happens is I'm asking you.
I have not received any updates. They had their second board meeting in December.
Yep.
And it was, so what Diane is referring to is the library's annual application for certification for state aid.
Yep.
And so we are waiting to hear notification from the MBLC. I have not heard
Okay.
from them either way at this point.
Okay.
No news is good news, which
Yeah.
just means
Yep.
we were approved.
So, for those who are new, I just want to go back as to how this all comes about. Remember in July, Layla gave us out that statistic report. So that was
The heiress report.
the ARIS report, otherwise known Annual Report of Information Survey. So she had to do that, and then in September, she gave us another statistical type report, which was the state aid application, which included that municipal appropriations thing. So that's what this is all about, and just waiting for that letter that lets you know what the first half of the amount that we will receive from the MBLC. So I just wanted to just double check on that one. And lastly, it's only because I love stories like this. Does anybody get the Sunday paper?
Yeah.
Okay, there was an article in the local section, and it was written by this Cynthia,
Oh, Simpson.
yeah.
Yeah.
And what happens, it's called Love Your Libraries.
Yeah, it was a-
And she tells a little bit the background of her life when she was growing up, and the Forbes, how much the Forbes library, which is gonna be 125 years this upcoming year. So she tells a little bit about it, and I pulled out a couple of items I thought was of a little bit of interest here, and I hope you don't mind me. She's talking about this librarian who made a difference in her life, and her name was this Miss McHugh. And so she goes on to say, was the person who helped guide me on my journey through the library shelves, from picture books to chapter books to using the collection of encyclopedias,
Yes.
remember them?
Oh, yeah.
To do research for school projects. And she goes on and she says, at every turn in my life, Forbes Library has been with me. And in this 125th year of its history, I'd be remiss if I didn't pay homage to my hometown library, and truly to all libraries, as I treasure each and every one. Where else but a library can you explore the world, be introduced to new music and films, research your family's history, access the internet if you don't have it at home, learn to write a resume, browse magazines and newspapers, join a book club, spend an afternoon with your children or grandchildren without having to pay a dime? The opportunities at a library are endless.
If you know your pin number.
What I thought was cute here, she goes, nary a corner of Forbes is not filled with memories for me. Its impressive glass mezzanine floor, the spiral staircase between the floors, and the long gone Dewey Decimal Card catalogs, the study cubicles nestled at the back of the stacks. She goes on to talk about how she got caught up with the stories of the Game of Thrones that was on HBO. And she says, over the past few months, Forbes also fed one of my latest addictions, meaning the Game of Thrones. And she says, the joys of Western Massachusetts interlibrary lending system. So that she was able to go through the story. She said she devoured devoured the Game of Thrones thanks to our interlibrary system. It says also, this coming week, Springfield's new East Forest Park Branch Library will have its grand opening. And then another piece I pulled out was, never underestimate the value of a library to a community or to an individual. Think back to your first experience in a library, and if you haven't been lately, check out the one in your city or town. They are special places. I love this article,
I did
and I
too.
wanted to share it with you.
I did too.
And have you seen any life next door to the school?
It opens tomorrow.
Oh,
10 a.m.
Thank you,
I think.
thank you.
I think it's 10 a.m.
10
They
a.m.
did
tomorrow?
announce it.
It's 10.
It's right
Yeah,
next
to your
tomorrow.
school?
Yep, we watched it go up.
How nice.
But I know
was a
you
long
said
time
that you've
coming.
been watching the construction of it,
Yep.
and I mentioned it a couple months ago, and I'm all excited for them.
Yeah.
And if you have an opportunity, I think it would be great if it went over and
Yeah.
congratulated them too, and so forth, because we certainly know
So
what
it
it's.
opens tomorrow.
Yep.
So you'll be able to take your classes and walk right in?
Free field trip.
Right?
It's
You feel
felt
me?
lovely.
trip.
We used to do that in Mason Square at the Mason Square Library.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome.
That's fantastic. I do know that Maple Shade School, I don't know if they still do it, but they used to be able to walk the
Yeah.
kids over to here and so forth. So anyways, so,
We had them all over Meadowbrook.
pardon me?
We had Maple Shade, Meadowbrook, and Mountain Peak. and Meadowbrook.
Yeah, well, what I
They
was
could
referring, what
walk.
I was referring to was having the ability to walk to the library.
Yeah,
Was
the other
Maple
ones had
Shade
to
had
get buses.
buses, yes. But anyways, all our students have had an opportunity through their schools to come and visit
Yeah.
the East Long Meadow Public Library. So on that note, I think, is there any other business that should come before us? All right. All right, then. I will ask for a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
And do I have someone to?
I'll second.
You will.
All right.
All right, and all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Oh, gosh. What, you have something else?
No,
What?
no, I do not, I'm not opposing.
Oh, all right. I thought I heard nay over that corner. So anyway, meeting adjourned.